Hello, my name is Sarah Tellis, and this Ignite presentation was created to help teachers better understand formative assessment and its impact on student achievement. This was for the course Instructional Technology and Design and Assessment. Do you know the difference between formative and summative assessment? This illustration shows that formative assessment really are the steps or actions that need to be taken to identify a student's strength and learning needs. The summative assessment is the end game or the final grade. Formative assessments are actions that improve learning, providing students with feedback during instructional process, and adjusting teaching and learning will help show growth and improve learning. To maximize the impact of formative assessment, you need to be sure that assessments are aligned to learning targets, that we're diagnosing student needs through some sort of pre-assessment, and being sure that we're giving feedback with enough time for students to take action, not just moving on to the next concept. The 7 strategies of learning focus on 3 questions: where am I going, where am I now, and how can I close this gap? Teachers need to keep all of these questions in mind as we're teaching and assessing students. As we look at the different strategies, where am I going covers strategies 1 and 2. We need to provide clear and understandable vision of the target for learning for students, and then provide examples of models of strong and weak work to show them what we're looking for. We need to look at where am I now? We need to offer regular descriptive feedback for learning. There are many different examples, and we also need to teach students to self-assess and set goals for the next step. We need to teach them to connect and reflect and be active in their learning. We need to ask ourselves, how can I close the gap? Use evidence of student learning to determine next step in teaching. A big part of formative assessment is designing focused instruction and letting students practice, giving them feedback and try it again. We need to also develop a culture based on assessment. Students act and think like learners rather than grade grubbers or homework completion machines. So I have a picture here of a homework completion machine. We need to make sure that we build a learning culture around assessment in the classroom. There are 3 different learning approaches that you may find in the classroom. The learning goal approach is where we want to see students working to improve to get better, not just protect self-worth and simply complete all assignments. Students need to know that it's okay to make mistakes. This needs to be taught to them, creating a safe classroom environment beginning on day 1 of school and throughout the feedback that we're giving to students. Part of building a safe classroom environment is to celebrate the successes through feedback. Identify for students what was done correctly, the quality and effectiveness of their work as well. On the other hand, the next step feedback helps students to take action, make improvements, and practice skills that they may still need improvement. This may cause teachers to ask questions, make suggestions, offer reminders, or point out a problem. Peer feedback can also be a valuable formative assessment in many ways. Providing feedback, peers deepen their own understanding, they're trained to recognize and describe features of quality, they're more receptive to their peers, and they can come up with some problem-solving strategies. One of the problems with self-assessment is that lots of students aren't very good at it, and if they're not good at it, it doesn't do them much good. This quote reiterates that strategies for assessment need to be taught to students to be beneficial and to increase student achievement. We need to make sure we're teaching self-assessment, that students understand their strengths or weaknesses, set challenging learning targets, and link self-assessment to the learning goals. There are 3, in the text, How Students Learn by Donovan and Bransford, there are 3 fundamental principles that are discussed that teachers should follow to make sure that we're maximizing student learning. Students need to have a well-structured conceptual framework. They often come up with preconception about the way the world works, and sometimes these are wrong, so we need to find a way to dislodge the misconceptions. Second, we need to make sure students have a factual knowledge, be able to remember, organize, and apply their learning to the real world. And finally, students need to take control of their own learning, using metacognition to become a self-directed learner. If you take nothing else away from this Ignite presentation, know that if there are no actions, there will be no gains. We must know where students are going and where they are and how we can close these gaps. Thank you so much.